You must just because normally Jim.
Good evening. On behalf of Mayor Gabriel, I would like to call the April 6, 2020 City Council meeting to order. If you're able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Winger?
Present.
Councilmember Naxted?
Here.
Mayor Gabriel?
Here.
Vice Mayor Glendenning?
Here.
Councilmember Baisden?
Here.
Councilmember Sonart?
Here.
Student Representative Thibodeau?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Council, before we get to agenda approval, I would bring to you... Oh, that one, okay. Before we get to agenda approval, I would bring to your attention the laydown material. And it's requested additions to the packet. It's action add to item D-3.3. Public hearing ordinance number 3276-2022. It's an amendment memo. Pleasure of council. Next, Mr. Naxted.
Thank you. I move for approval of the agenda with the noted amendment of ordinance 3276-2022. Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent was requested. Are there any objections? Do we have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any objections to the unanimous? Next we have the consent agenda. Pleasure of the council. Councilman Naxted.
But before we move forward, Vice Mayor, would it be appropriate for the clerk to read into the record the items that are on the consent agenda? Is this where we do that, or am I screwing it up?
They are read in after the motion is made and seconded.
Okay. I move for approval of the consent agenda and request unanimous consent. My apologies.
No. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Would the clerk please read the consent agenda into the record?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendenning. Minutes, approval of the regular minutes of March 16th, 2022, sponsored by the City Clerk. New business, action approval, bills to be ratified sponsored by the administration. Action approval, purchase orders over for $15,000, sponsored by the administration. Action approval, liquor license renewal for White Moose, New Peking Restaurant and Jersey Subs, sponsored by the City Clerk. Ordinance number 3277-2022, accepting a grant from the Federal Aviation Administration under the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriation Act of 2021 and appropriating funds into the Special Revenue Fund, sponsored by the administration. Ordinance number 3278-2022, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the Airport Special Revenue and Airport Improvement Capital Project Fund, and authorizing a professional service agreement amendment to complete design phase services for the Kenai Municipal Airport Runway Rehabilitation Project, sponsored by the administration. Ordinance 3279-2022, accepting and appropriating a State of Alaska grant passed through the Southern Region EMS Council, Inc., for 3 scoop stretchers, 3 adult vacuum splints, and 3 pediatric vacuum splints, sponsored by the administration. Ordinance number 3280, 2022, accepting and appropriating a volunteer fire assistance grant from the United States Department of Agriculture, Forest Service, passed through the State of Alaska Division of Forestry for the purchase of firefighting equipment, sponsored by the administration. Ordinance number 3281, 2022, accepting and appropriating an American Rescue Plan Act grant passed through the State of Alaska Department of Health and Social Services for Kenai Senior Center expenditures in support of its response to the COVID-19 public health emergency, sponsored by the administration. Ordinance number 3282, 2022, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the Water and Sewer Special Revenue Fund and Wastewater Treatment Plant Improvement Capital Project Fund to provide supplemental funding for a sledge press replacement project, sponsored by the administration. And ordinance number 3283, 2022, authorizing a budget revision in the Airport Special Revenue Fund and increasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the Terminal Improvement Capital Project Fund for design service for the terminal landscaping project, sponsored by the administration. And that is your consent agenda.
Thank you. Are there any public comments on the consent agenda, the items just read by the clerk? Anyone in Zoom land?
There are no hands raised.
Thank you. Unanimous consent was requested. Are there any objections? Hearing no objections, the consent agenda is approved. Next, we have scheduled public comments. We have Mr. Jeffrey Delifka of the Boys and Girls Club. His subject tonight is plans for the Kenai Club. Mr. Delifka, you have 10 minutes.
10
more,
minutes.
and if we ask enough questions, you'll have more.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks for having me tonight. I think I know all of you in some different capacities, but tonight I'm here as the president of the Boys and Girls Club. I've been in that role for a couple years now. I think I've only been on the board 3 years, so I brought some backup in case you guys throw some really tough ones at me. Ryan Tuns is here from the Boys and Girls Club. We've got Dr. Lee back here, and Mrs. Rosen is also there, our executive director, Shanette Wick. She's just came on. So figured I'd give you just kind of an overview of who we are, what we do on the peninsula, then kind of an overview of where we're going, and then onto a specific project that we're working on right now. And then the real reason I'm here is to ask for something, as you probably are aware of. So I'll end with that. So the Boys and Girls Club of the Kenai Peninsula opened its doors in 1988 in Kenai, Alaska, with one small club and a few sports programs. We've grown into about 7 clubs now in 5 communities located from Kenai, Nikiski, Soldotna, Kasilof, Seward, so we're kind of everywhere. Our mission is to enable all young people, especially those that need it most, to reach their potential as productive, caring, responsible citizens. At the Boys and Girls Club of the Kenai Peninsula, we provide a safe and positive place for all youth ages 5 to 18 years of age through after-school programs such as STEM, art, music, robotics, physical movement, SEL, homework assistance and completion programs, college and career readiness programs, and that's just to name a few. Throughout the pandemic, we were still able to keep open our doors, which was a pretty big deal. We also provide many other opportunities for children when school is not in session, early release days, winter breaks, spring break camps. As you probably know, we provide a lot of different sports activities. Our sports programs include indoor and outdoor soccer, basketball, volleyball, kinder hoops, and these run year-rounds. The sports camps are scheduled between the different seasons. Since we reopened after COVID, we've had over 300 youth register. We also provide meals for many disadvantaged youth. In 2021, we served approximately 1,200 youth and served over 45,000 meals to youth on the peninsula, with 50% of them coming from economically disadvantaged homes. So pretty big impact, more than just sports. We provided scholarships in the amount of $193,000 approximately to economically disadvantaged families, so they were still able to participate in our activities. We have 3 teen centers. One of them is located in the inside the city of Kenai, in a facility that you guys let us use graciously, so we really appreciate that. Currently, there's almost 100 youth that are registered for that, so a lot of youth in your community are being helped there. We employ 86 employees, including youth development leaders, junior staff, certified tutors, site directors, athletic directors, referees, cooks, drivers, custodians, you name it, we have a lot of employees. In some, we do a lot more than just athletics, and that's what most people think we do, but we present a lot of other things. And we want to do a heck of a lot more, and that's what we're trying to do. So currently, our clubs operate in spaces that are donated by the Kenai Peninsula School District, the Kenai Peninsula Borough, and the City of Kenai. We have flourished with the support from these entities, and we really, really, really appreciate your support in the ways that you do. And we would not be able to accomplish our goals without that continued support. However, the shared space model has presented several challenges outside of just the obvious of scheduling with some of the other places. We ran into some situations where our club policies and needs did not necessarily align with our landlord's policies and needs. Some of these issues were related to COVID, and there's also some issues that arose during the teacher strike. We kind of realized that without our own clubhouse, we could be closed down by factors that were outside of our control. And when your when our clubhouses are shut down, it puts a significant strain on the youth and families that are going to rely on what we do. And parents have to choose to go to work or leave their kids at home, and a lot of them were facing that during COVID. So in order to alleviate any potential issues and to provide for additional services in our community, we have been looking to purchase our own facility for a long time. That's been in the works. In past boards, they've definitely talked about it before. But a few months ago, we were notified by the Kenai Peninsula Community Care Center that they were going to be closed down, and they're located down here on South Spruce Street. I think you have that in your folder here. We were informed that the building that they were operating in would be available for purchase. And again, I think you have the packet to be able to look and see where that exactly is located. We visited the site, and it was in really good condition for kind of as old as it was. But it became apparent that the size and the layout would not meet the needs that we were looking for. The location lacks parking and does not have significant room for any expansion, which we'll talk about. We kind of want to look at the next phase of this process, but we're currently at a standstill until we figure out if there's any opportunity for additional land. That being said, the facility is a very good fit for our long-term goals of expanding services and allowing us to keep our headquarters right here in Kenai. This is a tremendous opportunity if we work our way through the due diligence phase and it checks out for our club for a few different reasons. The cost of building a new club here or anywhere else, the cost to build, if you are aware, is crazy high right now. And we believe we can fund a large chunk of this purchase if it actually goes through from grants and private funding, therefore preserving the funds that we probably are going to need to deal with operating our own new facility. As many of you are aware, we inherited a large sum of money from the estates of Royce and Melba Roberts, and we're currently working on a plan to honor their memories and expand services to the community based on that. Our goal is to preserve the funds in an endowment to provide for many generations, and the purchase of this particular building would enable us to preserve most, if not all, of that potential endowment. Our goals, if able to purchase this facility, include an expansion of new services and new opportunities, including but not limited to a soccer field, playgrounds, kitchens, STEM classrooms, art rooms, photography rooms, greenhouse, Head Start programs, and much more. We plan to work with the community to determine the exact plan. So the things I referenced are just ideas, and we're still very early on, and we really want to reach out. Again, that gift from Royce and some of these opportunities that are presenting are a gift to the community, and we want to reach out and see where needs that we can fill. I know I have my own, but there'll be a lot of opportunity for people to give their input, including you guys. So, we are very excited to explore these new ways to help youth, and you can find kind of an initial overview of a potential layout that if we were able to buy that Kenai Peninsula Community Care Center, of what that could look like. Again, that's not set in stone. We're pretty early on. So why am I here? We need your help. In order for this facility to work, we need additional land. The city of Kenai owns the property to both the north and the south. We initially were looking at the property to the north, which I believe the north is the baseball fields. We thought that there was something in the works to move those fields to a different facility. Turns out that that's not really in the budget for a long time, so we kind of turned our eyes to the south. and I attached a copy of that specific piece of property to the south. So as a part of that donation, Royce was very adamant that these funds be used as a catalyst to encourage community support and partnerships with this any potential project. So we are asking the city of Kenai to become a partner with us and to donate the adjacent property, which I believe is approximately 4 acres if the easements and right-of-ways were vacated, to the Boys and Girls Club of the Kenai Peninsula, contingent upon the purchase of the facility of the Kenai Peninsula Community Care Center. And that's why I'm here tonight. So if you guys have any questions, you can bring it at me, I guess.
Are there any questions of Mr. Delifka? Yes.
I just want to say thank you for coming in and giving a presentation to us with what your plans are going to be. Are we expecting to see a formal, something formal coming through administration for this request then?
Yeah, I think the plan was today just to, again, I tried to reach out to most council members before today just to give you an idea of where we're going, but also let the general public know what our plans were. Would be the next meeting if somebody here was willing to introduce something along the lines that we just referenced. We would be hoping that that's something that would happen. We're on a shorter timeline. That's why things have kind of been moving at a little bit rapid pace. We're kind of along with we're with the Kenai Peninsula. We're on their timeline of just kind of winding up their program and wanting to shut down or get out of that building. And so we're trying to hit their marks. And so that's why this is kind of moving rapidly. So we're trying to kind of have an answer before May 15th, actually. And so that's when we're trying to get an answer from you guys if this is something that you're interested in doing for us.
Thank you. If this doesn't go through, do you have a plan B or a different location or a plan that you would be submitting to us? Is there another location that might better suit your needs for parking?
Any other place is just probably going to be raw land, and that takes us back to then new construction. And new construction for anything comparable is essentially not only going to eat up the grants, but eat up a vast majority of the endowment, which means we're going to have a nice shiny building without a way to pay for the operating expenses, and we're not going to be able to do the actual activities inside of them. And so that's the biggest draw to this building, is the fact that we think we can get through it and actually have a way to pay for the future operating expenses of this building and the activities that I really want to bring to the community. And that's the dilemma that we're in. If we don't get this and we have to go start from square one, we're going to be set back pretty far. And as to whether or not there are other options, the answer to that is yes. We've been approached by other entities. I don't really want to go into that because we want to be here in Kenai. And so we're going to try everything we can to try to be here and work out something that we can be here inside the city of Kenai. If it doesn't work out, then yeah, there's other options, but I'm going to focus on this and give it my best chance or best shot to try and make this work.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I have just one.
I'm sorry. No, when you get a chance.
You go ahead. You're ahead of me.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thanks, Jeff, for coming in. I know you and I had a conversation. You probably had a conversation with some of the other members up here. So just to paint the picture, as we go down Spruce, you've got the Little League field, right? And then you've got the property where the community care center is. And you're talking about the property next, going on down, like you're going to go towards the inlet, correct?
Yes,
on the right side. So not the Little League field property. You're looking at the property farther
Not
down.
the Little League field, and when I originally reached out, we were looking at the Little League field because we thought that there was a plan to relocate those fields. And so that, if they were being relocated, made some sense, right? With the fields being cleared and already it would save a lot of additional costs for us. When that became apparent that was not in the plan, and also some review on what the cost to move the fields if we really pushed that, it didn't seem feasible or something that's probably going to be very popular. And again, our goal is to help youth, and if we're taking baseball fields away from kids playing sports, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Thank you. If I could just follow up. So then the partnership you're looking for is a donation of that land, of that approximately 4 acres. Is that what you put it at, from the city to make this happen, to try to keep the club inside the city limits, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Henry. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and yes, you did call me too, and our conversation all had to do with the ball fields, and of course there wasn't a plan for that. So this property would be the logical next step, and I get that. I think my suggestion would be, as we go through this, and maybe if I spoke last, would be for you to work with the administration on this more, and have the administration perhaps bring it forward depending on how our meeting and discussion goes. There's a lot of moving parts with this. There's a Char Circle that will need to be vacated. There's also some other city right-of-way that would also have to be vacated. There's a platting process that has to go through. There's a cost associated with that too. I don't know what the actual cost of this property is. The borough says it's $28,000, which isn't a whole lot, but the borough kind of falls short a little bit with that, with city stuff, and maybe Mr. Ostrander will have something a little more. So I kind of need to know how much the value of the property is if we were to donate it. I need to know what your need is financially, and I think that that's something that perhaps you can discuss with administration. I don't know what your development costs are, all of that, and if you're planning on doing all the replatting. If you hadn't thought about that, maybe you purchase the property and the city does the planning, or there's some kind of a combination thereof. And I think that there's just all these different moving parts, and just to say, yeah, we'll donate it, but oh yeah, we have to do all these other things too. I think it needs to come together as one cohesive plan of what you're going to do, and also that there's a need. I have an idea how much money you've got, and I see that the first purchase is, if you bought it for assessed value, it would be $2.5 million. I know what you kind of got left. I don't know what your development costs are for the building and all of that, and it seems like the $28,000, or if it's $50,000, is kind of change. But it would be good, to go through administration and come back, I think, showing us the need, and I do want you here. There's the need, because I do appreciate the Boys and Girls Club. Don't get me wrong there. It's just thinking ahead for our constituents on why we donate property or why we don't, and especially if there's some additional costs involved. And I certainly would like to have that all laid out for me, and that's probably a good way to do that.
Yeah, we did have discussions about, vacating and that, and again, it would have to be brought forward. As to the exact cost, I guess that's up for you guys to need to know. I don't mean that in a negative way, but you guys have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers, do what's best for you, and I completely understand that. And we have a fiduciary responsibility to act on behalf of the Boys and Girls Club, and so that's totally fine. I don't know as far as what valuation you're going to be looking for when you're talking about. We have the tax assessed value. So if you guys are going to be looking for an appraisal or something along those lines, I can tell you we're not going to be able to get it in the time frame that we need it. So I don't know what what you're wanting from me as far as the valuation itself. The cost for the replat, you can get that. Or, I think we can obviously get that number, but a more formal valuation of what, other than what the I don't know what that will look like.
And I agree. There's not a tough time to get an appraisal, because that's how, perhaps in our code, that we would normally sell a piece of property like this, and in which case we'd have to do something out of code to do that. And just one person, if we were to sell it, if we're doing a donation, perhaps that's different. But then there's the other moving parts. There's right of way. And I see that there's a lot that's to the west, and I think that's another larger city lot. Since I haven't seen this, I assume that it has right-of-way access, but I can't see that from what you provided here. I think it does. But that's kind of where, maybe working with the administration and coming back with something like that.
We'll come back with a formal ask, again, if someone's willing to sponsor it. Tonight, we're trying to get a sense of if this is even something you guys are interested in, because if not, I don't want to waste time and money of the Boys and Girls Club. And that's what tonight's about, is figuring out, again, do we have that, or you guys want to start doing some of that due diligence on your end, and then we can come back with more of a formal proposal of the exact, what that looks like and the cost. I mean, we are asking them to be donated. I mean, that's the ask. As far as if you come back and say, you know, we want you to pay for something, I don't know what the board will come back with that. And I'm not going to speculate on that, but the ask is, and that goes back to the buy-in that I talked about. To me, a facility like this has a variety of different partners in it. One of them, like, you have to have the community support, and we have absolutely amazing community support from a lot of people probably in this room, donors, our banquets. We have just fantastic support. We have a great network with grants, so we have a great network from that really allow us to do, you know, what we want to do. And then we had this, you know, person that kind of lit the spark of doing something, you know, kind of outside the norm. We can go take this to the next level for the future. But the last piece is we need a city or a borough that wants us here and wants what we bring to the table, which we bring a lot to the table for you guys. And I want to answer your question about, you know, what did we bring to the city of Kenai? We bring a lot of cars coming over here, which is a lot of sales tax revenue for your city, which from my understanding is your guys' primary source of where you guys pay for your services. And on a good day, when we have all these youth activities from soccer to basketball, that's hundreds of people coming over here, going to Louis, paying sales tax that are not there if we go somewhere else. And so we do bring a lot. This isn't a one-way street here. We bring a lot over here, and we're going to do a lot more. I can tell you that. I'm super excited about what Royce did and what this is going to lead to and all the new stuff that we're going to be able to bring to the city of Kenai. We want to be here, and we want you guys to want us to be here. So that's kind of, again, it may not seem like a lot, $28,000. It is to me, but that's that initial, that's that buy-in, and that's what I think Royce wanted is, Kenai, show us you want us to be here. Whether it's smaller amount of money or not, it's that buy-in that you guys are supportive of us, and we can make that partnership work, and we can, you know, help kids in your community and your kids and my kids. That's the way I see this. And again, I'm not speaking on behalf of the board. I'm kind of speaking up for myself there.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendening. As much as I agree with your point, I think the city has had a buy-in to this point. We, you know, have donated the teen center space. We donate $10,000 to the program. You know, we've operated our facilities for all your sports programs and after-school programs. When you guys were displaced during the COVID, I believe you guys temporarily went to the Beacon facility. So I think there is definitely a buy-in from the city of Kenai. So I would hate for you to get under the assumption that if we're asking questions that we're not buying in on this, because I think we very much are bought in and have been very supportive of having you guys in our community, and we will try to work with you to find a way to do it. I agree with Mr. Naxted of getting just a little bit more information. This is prime real estate, prime lot. I mean, originally this was supposed to be where the senior center's location was going to go. This has been talks of where a campground would go because of its prime real estate. So when we're talking about donating prime real estate that could have $1 million condos built on it, I mean, we really have to be able to justify this to the constituents. So it's not that there's not a buy-in from the city. There's just concerns that we have to address and make sure that we're crossing correctly as well.
Yeah, we thank you for that support. I don't hope it didn't come across that I was not appreciative of that. Again, we're just trying to go to the next level, and we hope that this is the location we can do that in. So we do, again, we appreciate that level of support that you guys give us.
Mr. Baston.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So a couple more comments. I guess I should openly say I don't know if I have a conflict when I have these comments, because I do donate to the Boys and Girls Club quite often. So no comments, Scott, or no conflict, Scott? Thank you. Yeah, I know we do. I just want to make sure. This kind of be directed towards the city manager. What's the difference in if we put something forward for it to support the Boys and Girls Club because they have a time frame? If this body was supported, is there anything different in what this body did for the dog park or for Triumphant? Because I don't think that those details have been worked out yet when it comes to the type of things that need to take place. Is there any difference in what they're asking for and what the other groups have asked for?
Through the Vice Mayor, Councilmember Basden. So this is quite different than the dog park, simply because we just, the dog park isn't the owner of the land that the dog park is going to go on. We just said that they could utilize that 22,500 square feet for the dog park. This is very similar to Triumvirate, though, however. In the case of Triumvirate, the city determined that we would actually subdivide the property, which has not been done yet, but still needs to be done, and that Triumvirate would have 2 years to develop the property. That's what the terms of that donation were. So that has been worked out, and Triumvirate provided some relatively detailed plans on what they were going to construct there, including an estimate of their total cost. So this would be very similar to Triumvirate. And I want to clarify for council that Mr. DeLifka and I have talked multiple times and been working on this for a number of months now. And I did ask him and other board members to come in tonight to basically introduce this concept to council before anything formal was brought forward. So as Jeff said, if the temperature of the council at tonight's meeting was generally supportive of this idea, we would at that point bring something back to you that was formal. There are multiple steps that need to be taken here. And because of the tight timeline that we find ourselves in here, it is difficult to get all those things accomplished by that May 15th timeframe. I know what Boys and Girls Club is looking for is a commitment on the part of the city. In their case, they've asked for a donation, that they would consider donation of this property. But again, if we get a sense from council tonight that you're generally supportive of pursuing this further, not necessarily committing yourself to passing legislation, but supportive of administration bringing something formal forward that would have some of those additional details and that would provide some additional information from the Boys and Girls Club, we'll prepare that potentially for the next meeting, and then you'll get some of that additional information that you're looking for.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor, City Manager. So I would support this, and I would support us having the conversation. And if you need a council member to sponsor it, I would sponsor it.
Thank you, Councilor Baisden. Councilor Sonard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Jeff, thank you very much for your presentation tonight. I have a vision question for you, and you just give it your best answer. So you said that you have approximately 100 kids, registered participants with the Boys and Girls Club?
Just the Kenai Teen Center.
Just the Kenai Teen Center? Okay.
Center is 100.
Okay, so you mentioned a couple times that if you secure the property with the buildings and the gym, and let's just walk down the road of vision here for a minute. Let's just say the club is able to purchase the land that you want, and the city donates the next lot. And you've got all the property you want. You're walking in there, you're going gangbusters, and you're taking it to the next level. In your best guess, what kind of increase of child participation do you see? Is it 5%, 10%, 15%? Where do you think this is? Where do you see this growing?
That's obviously a super tough question. The new programs that obviously we're going to focus on, I kind of mentioned some of those, of having the opportunity to have STEM classrooms, have art rooms, photography. I really want to focus on VOTEC. I think that's something that we're lacking. And again, to have other partnerships from camps with Little League, again, just by having that additional funding. I have no idea and we were just talking about this last night at our board meeting, of how to increase those numbers. It's just what do we focus on that draws kids in and to keep them into the club longer. The Teen Center has really taken off. Even where it's at right now, the numbers have been growing. And so I don't have a number that I even could project. Again, us just having more time with a basketball court instead of sharing with Aurora or having a field to ourselves, that's going to just create more opportunities that we can offer camps, offer services, and again, other partnerships. So I don't have an exact number, but these new services, you're going to attract a broader group of kids, right? Like I mentioned the the things we're in right now, but as you start expanding, you're going to attract new kids. I don't know what a really nice STEM room is going to draw in. I assume pretty good, but that's why we're going to reach out in the community and have talks with everybody and see what's the big need. What exactly, how can we draw kids in? Do we want to have a gaming room? I don't know. I just want to get kids, again, keep them out of trouble. That's my goal. Keep them keep them out of the system, because everybody knows how much that costs and the detriment to the community. And so all those different programs that we offer, if it's keeping kids busy and active, that's what I want to do, from music to everything. A drama, partnerships with Triumphant, which we're already doing. It's just moving. Again, if you have more funding, you can offer these different programs, and each one of them is going to draw in new kids that we don't do right now. I don't know how many, but it will, at some level.
Thank you, Jeff. So I guess to just answer it in a very simplified manner, you are expecting growth.
Yeah, lots of growth.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Gabriel, are you on the line? You wish to speak?
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor Glendenning.
Stand by. We got to get your volume up. Stand by.
Mayor Gabriel, try that.
Can you hear me okay?
You're coming through very faint.
Can you hear? Yeah, I don't know if it's my end or your end. How's that? I'll yell a little bit louder. Is that better?
Not really.
Hello? Okay, hold on just a second. So I guess what I was going to say is that, can you hear me at all?
Very faint. Let me continue trying to modify the audio.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Try that.
Is that better?
A little bit better, yes. Okay, again.
Is that better?
Much better.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I guess I want to say, first of all, I want to thank Mr. Delifka and the board members for showing there and presenting. I'm sorry I wasn't able to make it. I was able to get a pretty good sense of where the Boys and Girls Club were at, and I love, the board's commitment to, keeping that presence in the city of Kenai. And I just would, I say it's worthy of discussion. I would I would not have a problem with co-sponsoring any legislation with Councilmember Beza. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Any other questions from council? I have one. Just picking up on the vision scheme, okay? I thought, well, gosh, you just need a parking lot. But this is 4 acres, okay? But you have more than a parking lot in mind, right? You mentioned outdoor activities, soccer, and whatnot. Could you just illuminate that a little bit more, please?
Yeah, if you have that just overview that looks like that, we just did a rough sketch. You kind of have a basic idea of what our vision is, and that spot for the clubhouse is kind of our vision of the new opportunities that we're trying to bring. We don't know what that exactly will look like. Again, that's going to be a lot of thought, a lot of, again, getting into the community and seeing what we really want. But there will be something built, you know what I mean? We're trying to expand in that area. You can see there's a greenhouse on there. That was something, just by me reaching out to the people I know, that was a really popular idea of having a greenhouse and a garden that kids could learn from that side. Another very popular thing is setting up kind of a wood shop garage, so you could have, again, a lot more of the VOTEC side of this. STEM classroom was just really popular. Again, we haven't quite narrowed down that because we're kind of in the early phases, but based off this, yeah, it's not just definitely going to be a parking lot. We're talking about building that new soccer field, the gym that's there right now. We would have to do some kind of remodels too, in the sense of a sprinkler system, and we want to get a commercial kitchen. I talked about all the meals that we're providing. We're hoping to, again, expand and provide more services in that commercial kitchen that we would have our own control over. It's really going to allow us to expand in that area too. So I wish I had more details, but again, we're kind of just trying to get into that due diligence phase, and then really take, if we draw something, we still got to look at what it costs to build it. And, I don't want to go promise the moon, but I know where we're trying to go, and I know what some of this is realistic for sure, and there will be something, but we got to draw it up, and we got to see what it costs, and then look at this long term of maintaining it, because my worst fear is that we're just pumping money into operational costs, and this money's not getting back to the kids, which is what I know is what Royce wanted. And so every penny that we can preserve from that's going directly to those kids in some fashion. Again, you name it. I just want to get that money to kids that need it. You know, I feel like a responsibility to make sure that we do our best to do that and preserve that money. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Mr. Basin?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I guess my final question, and I know we also have an audience, a member here from Triumphant. Is there a possibility of a relationship that you're looking to expand in there also with this piece of property or not?
Yeah, just in general, a partnership with them, again, of services and collaborating on different camps and stuff like that is extremely important to me. Again, I'm really trying to focus not just on sports, but drama, music, photography, art, and so I've already had conversations with him. When we were originally looking at the ball fields and we thought there might be a potential that the ball fields would be relocated, my initial idea was that maybe we would be able to move the Triumphant location from over there and put it right next to us, so we'd really just have a big group there. I don't think, probably based on the size of that's going to be realistic, but the partnership is absolutely going to be there. And if Joe's somewhere in here, yeah, we're definitely going to be working to make that a very strong partnership. If they end up being right over there, I already know because we're already working on some different projects with them. So yeah, we will absolutely be utilizing, and I think they'll be working with us.
Thank you.
I have one more question. So we're looking at the geographical area that you draw from, okay? And it's North Road, it's Kenai, Village of Kalafonsky Beach, Ridgeway, Soldotna, Sterling, Clam Gulch. Is this your area of draw of interest?
Yeah, actually, I have kind of the numbers of who's of enrollment right now. As of April 5th, we have 728 registered members, and you're absolutely right. It's the entire outside of Homer right now, which again we might be having some discussions of that. It encompasses the peninsula, and I would guess we'll probably getting, if we have our own facility, getting kids from Seward that are willing to drive over here, but definitely from McKiskey to Seward to Kasilof and Sterling, they'd be coming over here for those services, a lot of them.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I'll just take the liberty and just ask for a straw poll. I believe, if I've read the sentiment of this body, that we would desire to have Mr. Dolivka and our city administration come together with a plan. Right? Is that doable, Mr. Ostrander? Yes. Okay, and if we are all in agreement, then we can send you on your way with a smile on your face, at least that there's a possibility that we can do this. But we have our own responsibilities, our own bureaucracy, our own timeline, and but we will do the best we can to accommodate your vision. And thank you for your presentation tonight, and we'll probably have you back again.
Yeah.
All right.
And I completely understand. I really do appreciate you guys listening to me, and I understand this isn't just a rubber stamp. And again, you have responsibilities as taxpayers, and you have that's a big ask. I'm not trying to minimize what we're asking for. I really hope I walk out of here that I was not minimizing that, and I really do appreciate the consideration tonight and let me present. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no other scheduled public comments. We now have unscheduled public comments. Are there any members from the public who would like to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? And we'll look for any remote participants also. Thank you.
Did you want to go remote first, or am I up?
Oh no, you're right there.
All right. Well, thank you, Vice Mayor Glendening and members of the council. My name's Ryan Tunseth. I live in Kenai at 2815 Bryson Avenue. And I was here tonight primarily to help support Jeff and our board in the discussion that you just heard. And so, but I want to take this opportunity because I was out of state when you guys helped out with our City League and gave us some relief from the rec center monies, and that's really been huge for us to be able to finish the league and have a successful league. In fact, I think we'll finish. I'll be really excited to share with you our kind of complete financial picture at the end of the year, but I think we'll finish with maybe around like $50 in the bank. And so having the donation of the rec center time was really invaluable to us being able to finish the season. And then I just wanted to invite you guys and share all the details of our tournament. And so I'm just going to hand this out if you guys, I don't know the procedure, pass that around to each other, but our tournament is starting next week on Monday. It'll go all week with the final games being Friday night. I expect Friday night to probably be pretty well attended and pretty good time. So if anybody's,
Yeah, you can just give it to the clerk and she'll manage that for us.
Yeah, and along with your logo on there as well as all the businesses that help support us. So that was all I had, just to thank you, and I'm sorry that I missed the last council meeting to take that opportunity to thank you guys. But any questions about?
Mr. Baston?
Thanks, Ryan, for coming. So who's the number 1 seed?
Who's the number 1 seed? Ellis Auto.
Of course.
Yeah. Ellis Auto. Again.
We have a fan here.
Thank you,
Counselor
Vice
Winger.
Mayor Glendening. Ryan, I just want to say thank you for putting that program together and running it. I know that there was definitely a need to get the league going again, so I just want to say thank you for stepping up and doing that.
Yeah, no problem. And it goes both ways. I don't think we could have done it without the help of the city. So really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And thank you for your energy and enthusiasm, and it's good to hear the sound of the ball dribbling on the court once again.
Absolutely.
Although I'm long past doing that, I do appreciate the game. Thank you.
Yeah, and we've got plans to do a 3-on-3 league this summer with games being played in Kenai and Soldotna at our parks. So that's something that I'm looking forward to working with Parks and Rec on, and we're just going to try to keep this thing going and keep opportunities, activities, whatever it might be, moving ahead. So.
Just a speculative question. There's soon to be more room in the rec center. Would you have any thought about how it could be used?
More room in the rec center. What do you mean by that?
Well, we have Boys and Girls Club there. I imagine they're going to be moving on at some point, right?
For the teen center? Oh,
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know. I haven't really thought about that, but I think that there's some things we could do, yeah.
I know you have imagination, and we can probably work this through.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely. I was thinking maybe there was an expansion plan for the rec center that I didn't know about.
Yeah, we're going to make a skyscraper out of it.
Right.
Anything else? Anybody in Zoom land?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Yeah, thank you. And you have 3 minutes to make your presentation. And if we ask questions, you're in there.
Okay, my name's David Haig. Came to you some time ago for a resolution similar to those already unanimously passed by the Kenai Peninsula Borough Assembly, Homer City Council, Funny River Board, and the Kiski Community Council. After I made that presentation, it came to my attention and a bunch of other people that the foreman on the current sitting Kenai grand jury tried to take some of the evidence that the public wanted investigated, of public corruption in our judicial system. He tried to present it to his fellow grand jurors and asked that they investigate, which the statutes say that he's required to do. He informed us that the Deputy Attorney General called the Kenai Courthouse and ordered him to stop. We believe that that was a crime in and of itself, and we called the governor's office, had a meeting with his Jill Schaefer, I think it is, at the Blasey building. Anyway, we asked him to step in and try to correct what had happened with the grand juror before the next grand juror meets, the next grand juror get-together. That never happened, and so because of that, we got together some folks and had a demonstration at the Kenai Courthouse a couple weeks ago. There was about 30-some people attended. Nothing still happened, so we had another demonstration today. We had over 60 people there. And I don't know if you guys looked at the evidence I gave you, but I'm going to give you just the stuff that we want investigated against of our judge investigator for the last 33 years. She's the only judge investigator. That's the primary thing that we want investigated. And again, this grand jury that's been shut down, it's the 5th one now that's been shut down. And so I'm going to hand out 7 packets of evidence to your clerk. Hope you look at it. And because it's an incredibly serious thing. You know, the evidence against the judge investigator. Representative Ben Carpenter, when he first got elected, I sent it to him. I said, you know, I just want you to look at this. He called me back at about midnight, talked to me for almost an hour, and said he said what he read in that packet was more important than Alaska's budget or permanent fund dividend because it strikes at the integrity of our judicial system. And so right now, there's a grand jury that was just shut down in Kenai that wanted to investigate the stuff I'm going to leave with you. And I'll leave the rights and duties of the grand jurors with you, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone in remote land wants to speak, may have a presentation?
There are no hands raised.
Thank you. Oh, this brings us to...
You got more public here.
Have more?
Yeah. 2 more.
Okay, jump up.
Hi, I'm Barbara Olson from Mountain View Elementary, and I said that I would come back when we had a date for our bike rodeo. On Friday, May 6th, we are having our bike rodeo, and this is done with the help and cooperation of Officer Smith from the Kenai Police Department, Safety Brad from the Safety Kids at the Central Peninsula Hospital, and myself. I am here to invite each one of you to come and help and have fun with our bike rodeo. It's a ball, you'll love it. Please remember that if you are able to volunteer, that you do need to go through the KPBSD background check and be cleared before the bike rodeo. I'm also looking for any amounts of donations to help cover some of the costs of children helmets that parents aren't able to purchase one. I have used my own funds to purchase helmets for students for many years, not only in my classroom, but in the whole school. And last year, there was a couple of council members that donated their own personal funds, and it was greatly appreciated. And I was able to get helmets for a child, for children that needed them, from ones that had duct tape on them to hold them together, to ones that were too small or half broken and not even fitting the children. I was also able to purchase a few extra helmets to keep on hand in case a child didn't have one that was riding a bike, and we have used several of those, and I think we have 2 left, I am doing bus duty as a volunteer, doing it as one of my duties, and I always dismiss them, and if they don't have a helmet, I don't let them leave. I go in and I grab one, and if they don't have one at home, I give it to them to keep. If they do, then they bring it back and we use it for another child on that. Yesterday, we had one that didn't have a helmet, and I said, I think you have one, and we did find one and get her one, and she did get right home safely on that. So you're all invited to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councilor Sonak, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendening. Ms. Ralston, 2 questions. What time on Friday, May 6th?
Tentatively, volunteers will come about 8:30, and we're hoping to get started around 9 o'clock, and we're hoping to be done by 1:30.
Okay, so for a good portion of the school day.
Yep.
And then what is the cost of a helmet?
Safety Kid buys them in bulk, and right now they're, as of last year, and I did not get a hold of Brad before I came, but I'm sure there'll be about $5, so it's not a lot, but it is for some families
Okay,
on that, so about $5
okay, all
for
right.
students. And a lot of times will just buy everybody in my class one, just because 2 kids get it and the rest don't. It's kind of hard on some of them. Thank you.
Councilor Winger?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendenning. Thank you, Ms. Ralston, for coming. I love your program. I think it's an amazing program. I love what you do. I'm happy to support it. I am, beyond sad that nor my daughter will be there. We will be at State in the Valley, so we will be gone for that entire time frame, and I am just, kind of bummed. This is the first year, and I think 5 years I've missed a bike rodeo. And for those of you that don't know, it is a fun activity. They have somebody come in from Beeman's. We tip the kids' bikes over, and we write down their serial numbers on their bikes. So if their bikes get stolen or lost, sometimes they can get them back. I mean, ultimately, there's a little bit of security measure in there for parents in recovering bikes. And they check the chains, they check the brakes, they get like this little tune-up in the little bike shop, and then they go off over to Safety Brad for a helmet, and then Mr. Smith to do the course. And it is truly a great time. And, there's a lot of kids you'd be surprised that can't ride a bike at that age. So, I mean, she's always in need of loaner bikes, especially with training wheels. And so if kids can't ride a bike at first grade, they don't have the basic concepts of safety either. So I think it's just great that they get exposed to riding bikes and get exposed to the safety. And, Officer Dan, the kids just idolize and love him. So they just want to show him their tricks and how they can do it and their stops. And I just want to say thank you. And I fully support this, and I'll do whatever I can from a distance on this event.
I thank you for that.
Councilor Baston?
Thanks, Mayor. Ms. Ralston, where's the best place for donations to go to?
You can give them to Tia, and Tia can give them to me, or you can give them to the office, drop them off at the office, and just say,
Make it out to Kenai Middle School, or?
Mountain View Elementary.
I'm sorry. Mountain.
Sorry.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. And if you make them, if it's a check, make it to Mountain View itself. That would work.
Councilor Nackstead?
Thank you. You were talking $5 a helmet. How many helmets do you think you're going to need this year?
Last year, I think we counted that we ended up doing 300. $250,
300. Do you have any left over, or you think you need 3 more?
We have 3 left over.
Oh, good. So,
and I always do that. I always buy a couple extras because you never know when you need one, and I cannot let a child leave without one.
so if there's more kids and there was like 350 helmets, if we were to make a donation in that realm, that would probably be somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm not looking for a lot of money. I'm just looking for help for a little bit to help support our families in Kenai area, and any donations.
Councilor Winger?
Thank you. Just to follow up with my fellow council members, last year, Vice Mayor Glendenning and myself donated $500 to buy helmets for this program. And with that donation, Miss Kim at the library actually created an account for Bike Rodeo. So any of the funds would go into an account labeled for Bike Rodeo. So it is only going to be used for those expenses. It can't be used for anything other than purchases of helmets or the receipts that Ms. Ralston would turn in. So there is an actual itemized account through the librarian that we set up with the funds last year.
And Miss Kim monitors that, our secretary. And so any of the funds that were left over would go into that. And then that way we have something for each year for the kids. Or if we need to talk to Safety Brad during the year and say, hey, we need some more helmets, then we can get them from him.
Thank you. So if I understand, throughout the year then, a single point of contact, should we have a question, say this year coming up to the event, we can contact you and and get good information.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this question? Okay, thank you.
All right, fill your background check out. I hope you come.
Okay, I will be in the States, but I will support it.
You'll be there in spirit.
I will be.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Last. And I'm heading back to school, so I'm going to sneak out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'll see you in the morning.
I don't see how you guys do this. I'm scared to death talking in front of
Oh, don't worry.
more than 2 people, but I'm going to. And God just put in my heart, and I'm going to say a prayer. So if Sultana can have the satanic invocation, I'm going to say a quick prayer, and there I go. Lord Jesus, thank you for the city of Kenai. Please cover it with your blood. Thank you. It's such a beautiful city. Please be with all of us and all the people here. I pray this in the name of Jesus Christ, and I thank you. Amen. Another thing you put on my heart was the scripture, Matthew 5:13 through 16. I'm not going to read that. I am super nervous, so Lord, please help me. I want to talk about my neighborhood. It's Central Heights. It's Walker Lane. It's across the street from the airport. It's by the McDonald's. I want some speed bumps on my street. That's one thing. I live on Walker, and I have for almost 40 years, and it's like NASCAR. The winter is not bad, but it's just starting to rev up. It's horrible. I'm afraid someone's going to be killed. And it's, I grew up in Anchorage. We could do speed bumps. I would hope so. And not just Walker, but I'm going to speak just for my neighborhood. Just to slow people down, to shock them. It's unreal. So that's one thing. Another thing is there was Keith Cornelis and I were friends before he passed. And he had a stop sign put up for me where McDonald's comes out and it goes to Walker. He had a stop sign. In one day I called him and he's like, it was done by the next day. And it's gone. Someone might have it on their wall or it might have gotten knocked down. But as people drive down Walker, they'll just come barreling out from McDonald's onto Walker. And so I'm afraid that there's going to be an accident there. We need another sign there. I need more neighborhood watch signs put up, but I've been talking to Grimm. I've worked on neighborhood watch for over 25 years, and so we're working on that. I'm not doing neighborhood watch anymore because I don't think it's safe, and I've got a new program going in my head, and I want to run it by the police first, so I'm not going to even go there right now. Another thing is, Paul, when Chia and I met on a different matter, we talked about human trafficking signs for the summertime, for the public bathrooms and stuff like that, for sexual human trafficking in the area that occurs, to have signs made up, to be put up that they may rip down, but we'll just have more to have put up. So I'd like to do that. I'd like to, I don't know how we'd go about this, and I like Dina Cunningham that owns McDonald's, but a lot of the garbage in my neighborhood comes from McDonald's. So, I'm going to talk to her, but I don't know if I'm going to get opposition or what. I know she owns a house in there that maybe she would pitch in and have some of her workers pick up some of the garbage in my neighborhood. And it's a great neighborhood. It's one of the first neighborhoods that people see when they come into the city. It's right there by the airport. So, for now, that's what I have, and I appreciate you listening. And I appreciate all of you because I know it takes time and energy and guts to do this.
Councilor Winger.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendening. Thank you, Cheryl, for coming and testifying. I know it's not easy for anybody to get up here. I think at this point, I understand your concerns with speed bumps. I think at this point, we almost need them on every major stretch in our city. They use quite a few roads as raceways. Birch is the same thing. We're a cut through for Inlet Woods and Woodland. So people will go 40, 50 down our road. So I totally understand your frustration with some of these areas maybe needing. I don't know. Do we have some?
The same thing with readout. You could list them.
There are quite a few. Is there temporary speed bumps that we could put in some of these areas that are problematic? That you would see them put? Is that something that our city would have access to, Mr. Ostrander?
Mr. Ostrander.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Glendenning, Councilmember Winger, we do install some temporary speed bumps on Eagle Rock Drive because of all the boat traffic that goes down that road. So it certainly is a possibility. You know, they're difficult to maintain because they get knocked over all the time, so you got to stay on top of them. But there are options for temporaries in some of these locations.
Can I ask a question within this?
Can I just follow up real quick?
Yeah.
If a neighborhood, like with her having a neighborhood watch, we have a neighborhood watch. If that was something that we, like myself and my neighborhood would be responsible for setting back up, would that be an option if somebody took over the responsibility for making sure they stay set up, I guess?
Yeah. Manager Gabriel, Manager...
Through the Vice Mayor, Councilmember Winger. It's not something we've looked at before, but, you know, I mean, sponsor a speed bump type program, you know, we could certainly look in to see if that's a possibility.
I mean, I would be interested for sure in that, and I think Ms. Main would be interested in that. And then on the trash at McDonald's, the Cunninghams no longer own it, so they don't own it.
Oh, okay.
So it has been sold. And I think that brings a good point up that we've talked about in the past, maybe more accountability with our businesses' trash, because Home Depot has a ridiculous amount of garbage that blows out from their property all over. And when you leave the airport, HE employees brought this up to us last year, of when people are leaving the airport, the first area they see is that whole stretch, and it's just covered in trash, most coming from Home Depot. So would we be able to start asking some of these businesses to be responsible with their premises? I mean, when there's trash everywhere, it blows everywhere. Do we have some sort of recourse for working with that, Mr. Ostrander?
Mr. Ostrander.
Through the Vice Mayor, Councilmember Winger, we could send Parks and Rec employees to pick up trash. I suppose that's one recourse. You know, we have had events before where we've invited community members to pick up certain areas of the city, which is another possibility. So there are things that we could do to help. Recourse to the businesses themselves, I'm not sure what the recourse would be specifically.
Or I guess enforcement. We would have some sort of littering fine or something on our books. Maybe that could fall back as encouragement for cleaning up their properties. I don't know. It is definitely, I think, one that should be addressed on, because Home Depot's a great example of the trash that they let blow through the area. And when people land, that is the first spot they're seeing. Thank you.
One of the things I was going to say is I would just request that the neighborhood watch and speed bumps be separate. I'm not going to do neighborhood watch at all anymore. I don't feel it's safe anymore, because then the people that you're, warning against know who you are watching them. That's why I've got something turning in my head that I want to get done. And also gosh, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I turned 60 just a little bit ago, but so I want that separate. But the human trafficking posters, can we get to that? That we talked about that, and or it was Ashley. It wasn't you. It was Ashley Bauman. Sorry, I didn't take good notes before I came. It was you, I, and Ashley, and the lady that's back here talked about making up posters for like the beach, and that's partly my fault. It probably is my fault not to follow through with that, to have posters made on human trafficking, to put at the beach, in the bathrooms, in the public places, because it is a problem here. We've had it, it just is. So, and I would be willing to take those and commission, or get people together to pass them out and be responsible for that. I'm not going to volunteer to go for the cost of it. I did that with neighborhood watch signs myself, and my husband's retired now, and so, but I feel that that's something the city should do to, it could save lives.
Councilor Winger.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I agree. I mean, I've done some human trafficking workshops and seminars in our area, and it is definitely, we've got our chief of police here. I mean, there is an issue in our state and in our community. I think it would be definitely a great campaign, awareness campaign, I'd be happy to work with administration. If that was something that our body would like to do, I'd be happy to work on that.
Or just even having the signs. I mean, I don't know how much I can volunteer for time.
Thank you. Just for the record, could you please say your name again? I didn't, it starts with a W?
No, it's Cheryl with an S, Maine, like
Maine,
Street.
okay.
Yeah, anything but Sue.
Anything but
Did you get that?
Yeah, I got it.
I was born on Johnny Cash's birthday. I had to put that in there.
Da-da-down,
There you
down.
go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Just one suggestion, maybe just a, I don't know if it's a chamber function or not, but maybe at the chamber meeting, maybe they could just make a request in their spiel that, maybe the businesses, now that the snow is gone, could, pick up a little bit around the trash that is generated in their area, not necessarily from them. We won't attribute to anybody, but it's just a thought. And thank you for coming to see us tonight.
And also the stop sign, should I just call the city and kind of remind them, or should I kind of, the one by McDonald's and Walker and?
I would give the city a call, and then
Okay.
it'll go through the
Okay.
proper process.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Anyone else?
This will be short. Just to Marion Nelson, Kenai Arts Center. This Thursday, tomorrow night, is the opening for this month's art show, the reception, and it is the annual student art show. So we've switched up the time a little bit to help with parking across the street with the Oilers, to alleviate that to some extent. So we are starting at 4:30 instead of 6. It'll be 4:30 to 6:30. And there's about 125 or so pieces of art, and these are from the various schools in the borough that have art teachers, the middle school as well as the high schools. In the farthest back part of the art center are the middle school kids, as I looked at it today, I can see that that's primarily 7th graders, and then it's 8 through 12 in the main gallery. As usual, we'll have a lot of parents and a lot of siblings, and teachers, of course, and a lot of kids very excited about possible awards that they might get. And also, as usual, there's some very, very clever pieces of art from all media, more than you could guess, and very fun to look at the very least. So you're certainly invited. And next month's show will be a watercolor show for the month, always very popular. Any questions on that?
Any questions? Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishes to speak on any subject?
I do. I really want to reiterate, and I have a ton of family coming to the beautiful city that Kenai is.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have death problems. I do, and I want to keep it that way. I grew up in Anchorage, and it is. My husband and I travel all the time now, way up for a while, and it is a beautiful city. It's an honor to be living here. And so, all these things that you guys are doing, that we all spoke about, let's keep it
Well,
this way.
thank you, and we do have a fine Parks and Recs department, and we seriously work on our presentation, and thank you.
In general.
You bet.
Let's keep it Kenai and not Lost Kenai,
Okay.
not like Los Anchorage.
Anyone else? Okay, that brings us to public hearings.
Mayor?
Let's take a 10-minute break. On the record. Thank you. We go to Section D, public hearings. And the first public hearing before us tonight is ordinance number 3274-2022. And that is increasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the General Fund Parks, Recreation, and Beautification Department and authorizing an increase to the Multipurpose Facility Management Services purchase order to Redline Sports for additional ice maintenance services. Pleasure of council. We have a, yes, Councilor Winger.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendiving. I would like to make a motion to move ordinance number 3274-2022.
Is there a second?
I would second.
Councilor Baisden, thank you. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance number 3274-2022? Are there any remote attendees?
There are no hands raised.
Seeing no one else, we'll bring it back to council. Discussion for council. Okay. Maybe Mr. Ostrander could just give us a 30,000-foot view since we are on a radio show.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendenning. So, as you know, our rink has got a lot more use over the last year, starting with during COVID, and one of our rinks was one of the only rink that was open. That continued into the fall, and then in the spring, there's a lot more participants. So, anyways, we're seeing that the revenues generated by the facility are going to be approximately 10% over what we had projected. So we had projected $130,000. We project revenues to increase by about $13,000. So this ordinance appropriates an additional $13,000, or increases estimated revenues by $13,000, and then increases appropriations by the same amount. Of note, we anticipate that expenditures will be up about $6,500. So the remainder of that would be additional revenues to the general fund. Thank you.
Any comments from council? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Naxted?
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Glendenning?
Yes.
Councilmember Baisden?
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart?
Yes.
Student Representative Thibodeau?
Yes.
Councilmember Winger?
Yes.
You have 6 yes votes. Ordinance 3274-2022 is enacted.
Thank you. That brings us to item D2. This is ordinance number 3275-2022. This amends the Kenai Municipal Code, Chapter 23.05, General Provisions, to add a new category of temporary employee entitled Program or Project Employee, and Chapter 23.40, Benefits, to establish benefits for this category and make housekeeping changes. Pleasure of council. Is there a motion? Councilor Naxted?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3275-2022.
I'll second.
Is there anyone in the audience or remotely that wishes to speak to this? We'll bring it back to council. I would ask, Mr. Baisden, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I guess I'll direct my question to the city manager. I know the HR director's here. If I was picking up on what this is about, is our temporary employees, if we want to extend them, these changes are to try to keep them out of the PERS issues when it comes to benefits? Is that what we're dealing with?
Mr. Ostrander, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Baisden. So I'll attempt to answer that. And Christine, our new HR director, is here to add anything that I missed. So yes, right now, code limits temporary employees to 6 months. and temporary employees are exempt from PERS, but the limitation to 6 months has been an issue for us. Matter of fact, currently we'd like to have our grants administrator, our grant writer, go full-time to 40 hours a week and extend beyond 6 months, probably up to about 2 years because of the significant amount of infrastructure money that's going to be available to the city. So right now, the limitation of 6 months is the primary issue. This new category of employee would allow us to bring this category of employee on for a multitude of reasons, but one of them is for a specific project that's going to take more than 6 months, and they would be exempt from PERS. I will say that there's going to be a follow-up resolution to this that exempts this position from PERS because this ordinance is not effective until, I believe, May 6th. We have the next meeting to get that in front. Christine is actually working with PERS, the state of Alaska, to determine the best way to craft that resolution.
Councilor Baston.
Thank you. Just a follow-up. So if I'm hearing you right, and I think I know the answer to this, is that when you set this as a project, so if you don't set it as a project, what happens is that after 2 years, if you put a person in that position for 2 years, if we didn't have it set as a project, the PERS would continue once we create that position, and the city continues to have that amount that needs to be funded every year, even if you don't have somebody in there. Is that correct?
Manager Ostrander.
Yeah, through the Vice Mayor, Councilmember Baisden. Yeah, so if you create a position that's in the PERS system and then you terminate it after 2 years, say you had a project and you created a position for this, and 2 years later you terminated that position, you'd be subject to what's called a termination study from the state. And depending on the outcome of that study, you could be liable for the cost of that employee for perpetuity or for a long time. So yes, this avoids that possibility.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other comments? No one else on Zoom? We're done? Okay. Seeing no one else, we'll bring it back to the council. We had the discussion. Red lights I've seen. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Gabriel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Glendenning?
Yes.
Councilmember Baisden?
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart?
Yes.
Student Representative Thibodeau?
Yes.
Councilmember Winger?
Yes.
Councilmember Naxted?
Yes.
You have 6 yes votes. Ordinance 3275-2022 is enacted.
Thank you. We now, now move to item D3. This is an ordinance number 3276-2022, accepting and appropriating a grant under the American Rescue Act Plan of 2021, passed through the Alaska Community Foundation, sponsored by administration. We will have a motion for introduction, a motion for second reading, which requires a unanimous vote, and then a motion for enactment. And after we introduce this motion, I will ask our city manager to speak to this ordinance. So we will begin. A pleasure of the council to have a motion to introduce, please. Councilor Naxted.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move to introduce ordinance 3276-2022 and request unanimous consent.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Unanimous consent was requested. Are there any objections? Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Glendenning, if there's no objections, it's approved. Was there an objection?
No objections. We do not need to call the roll then.
No,
Okay,
sir.
then we will ask Manager Ostrander to speak to this ordinance and go through the mechanics of it, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendenning. So for clarity, we are on ordinance 3276, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So Kathy Romaine, the Senior Center Director, applied for this grant, which, as the title states, is a grant under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. and it's passed through the Alaska Community Foundation. She was successful in getting this grant for $100,000. However, because the expenditures need to be made by the end of this fiscal year, so June 30th, we have asked the council to introduce this and hear it at the same meeting, which is why you see that it's been requested for the hearing tonight. Without that, we're concerned that she would be unable to expend the funds by the end of the fiscal year. I would also note that there is requested amendments for council on both modifying the appropriation amount and also amending several of the whereases.
Thank you, Manager Ostrander. Clerk, we introduce the amendments after everything has been introduced. Is that correct?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendening. Yes, so the next we would need the second reading, and after that's approved, the title, and then the motion to enact before any amendments can be made.
Thank you. Before I ask a motion for a second reading, I will read the ordinance once again. Ordinance number 3276, 2022. This accepts and appropriates a grant under the American Rescue Plan of 2021 passed through the Alaska Community Foundation. Is there a motion from council? Councilor Naxted, please.
Yes, Vice Mayor, I move for a second reading, maybe a third, of the ordinance 3276, 2022.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second it.
This is unanimous.
Request unanimous consent.
Thank you. No roll call is needed because unanimous was granted. Say again.
So could you please state for the record, is there any objection to
Is
the
there any
unanimous?
objection? I'm reading minds here. No nodding of heads. Thank you. Okay, the motion for the second reading is approved, and I'll read the title again. Ordinance number 3276, 2022, accepting and appropriating a grant under the American Rescue Plan of 2021 passed through the Alaska Community Foundation. Pleasure of council. Councilor next.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3276, 2022.
Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Councilor Winger, yes. Is there anyone from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance 3276-2022? Are there any remote attendees?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, seeing no one else, we will bring it back to the council. Discussion from council, please. Councilor Naxted.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. First off, before I go ahead and do the amendment, but I want to say that it's somewhat unusual for us to approve these in the same night. But in this particular case, it makes a whole lot of sense because of the time frame involved that we've got. That it would be necessary for us to approve this tonight to meet that timeline. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move the suggested amendments from the administration that was part of our laydown. I move to amend the fourth and sixth whereas clauses to change June 20th, 2022 to June 30th, 2022. Then I amend section 2, the second subparagraph, decreasing supplies by $10,285 and increasing equipment by $10,285 for an overall supplies total of $56,715 and equipment total of $43,285.
Thank you.
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent was requested. Are there any objections? Seeing none. We will call the roll on the ordinance as amended. Is that correct? And we need 5 votes? Okay. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Glendenning.
Yes?
Councilmember Baisden.
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart.
Yes.
Student Representative Thibodeau.
Yes.
Councilmember Winger.
Yes.
Councilmember Nackstead.
Yes?
Mayor Gabriel.
Yes.
You have 6 yes votes. Ordinance 3276, 2022 is enacted.
Thank you. This will bring us to item D4. It's a resolution, number 2022-20. This authorized the city manager to enter into an airline operating agreement and terminal area lease with Kenai Administration. Pleasure of the council. Councilor Nackstead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move to adopt Resolution 2022-20.
I'll second it.
Okay. We'll have a stand, yes. Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak on Resolution 2022-20? Is there any remote attendees?
There are no hands raised.
Okay. Seeing no one else, we'll bring it back to council. Looking for red lights. Councilor Winger.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendenning. I'll definitely be in support of this. I think it's great to see Kenai Aviation expanding their business. I was able to meet with them a little over a month ago and kind of go over what their scope of their expansion and their business plan would be. I got to tour their very nice airplane. Looks like they have recently purchased another plane in Florida currently that they'll be adding to their fleet. And as they pointed out, they're the second longest running Kenai business, first being Doyle's Fuel Service. So I think it's great to have these, they're kind of staples in our community, and they're expanding their business to every degree. And I think it's great. I wish them good luck in their endeavors, and book Kenai Aviation.
Councilor Nackstead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Kenai Aviation on Sunday actually took possession of the new aircraft down in Florida, and it's an Italian-made aircraft. I've never seen one before, but it's called a Tecnam P2012 specifically, but it's a twin-engine, fixed-gear, high-wing aircraft. It holds 9 passengers and 2, so it'll scoot along pretty good and all of that, and it's going to be brand new. And looking at their schedule that they have, I'm looking forward to that because they have an early flight out of Kenai to Anchorage, which you really can't get right now. The 4:30 doesn't happen. I don't think you can get one at 5:30. I may be wrong, but it's pretty late at any rate. So this will certainly help out. And of course, they're not only going to be serving Kenai, they're going to be serving out of Anchorage and Valdez and Homer too. So they're throughout the day, they're going to be going from Kenai to Anchorage, then to Valdez, back to Anchorage, down to Homer, back to Kenai, so forth, and as they go through. So it's certainly competition, but it's not particularly direct competition exactly on the aircraft, the type of service that we're getting here currently, with the other two. Certainly there's going to be some, but they're hitting some other markets as well, and I think they will do well.
Thank you, Councilor Nackstead. Anyone else?
Request unanimous consent.
Just ask the city manager, is there any embellishment, or did Mr. Nackstead nail it?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I think Mr. Nackstead and the other councilors gave all the necessary information. Thank you.
Thank you. So, unanimous consent was requested. Are there any objections? Okay. No objections.
Hearing none, Resolution 2022-20 is adopted.
Thank you. I like we adopt resolutions. We are now on item D5. This is Resolution 2022-21, and this approves a sole source purchase through Motorola Solutions for Phase 2 radio upgrades to the Kenai Dispatch Center, utilizing appropriated Department of Homeland Security grant funds and capital city funds. Pleasure of the council. Councilor Hackstead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move to adopt Resolution 2022-21.
Is there a second?
I'll second. I'll second.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the general public that would like to speak to Resolution 2022-21? No one in Zoom land? Okay. Seeing no one, we'll bring it back to council. Any discussion? Councilor Basin.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So maybe through the city manager, I understand why we're doing a sole source, but maybe just for the record, why a sole source is needed?
Through the Vice Mayor, Councilmember Baisden, I'd actually like Chief Ross to speak to that.
So, sorry, through the Mayor, Councilor Baisden. Probably the most compelling reason for a sole source is that a couple of years ago, this was a single project that was going to be Motorola. It was about $600,000, and we decided to split it into two projects to see if we could we got $393,000 in grant funding the first time around. So we tried to split it into two projects so we could try to get more grant funding instead of using the city funds to finish that project. So we got all the Motorola consoles in there in dispatch, but we need all the Motorola backup radios and consolettes in the server room. So for it to seamlessly integrate, the second phase needs to be the same equipment as the first phase.
Councilor Baisden.
Thank you. And for the Chief of Police, how is your servicing going with Motorola? Are they still one of the main players in the state?
Through the Mayor, Councilor Basin, yes, they are. It appears that Procom is going to continue operating. The owner-operator Procom, who operates Motorola, passed away this year, but I've been working directly with Motorola, and they still have a working arrangement with Procom, and so we've had good service in the past with both Motorola and Procom, and they've done a good job maintaining our stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent was requested. Are there any objections? Seeing none, Resolution 2022-20 is adopted. I said 21, correct?
No.
I meant 21. That brings us to item D6. This is Resolution 2022-22. And this is authorizing a budget transfer in the general fund, police department, for anticipated fuel cost increases for the remainder of this fiscal year, 2022. This is sponsored by administration. Pleasure of council. Councilor Nexted.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move to adopt Resolution 2022-22.
Is there a second?
Second.
Everyone's behaving now. Is there anyone from the public wishes to speak to it, or anybody remotely?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, unanimous consent was requested. Is there any discussion? None? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendening. I actually have a question for City Manager Ostrander. Are we currently utilizing a fleet card that is distributed, and that's how we pay for our fuels? And do we have any sort of fleet card at any fuel service station other than the Chevrons?
Through the Vice Mayor, Councilmember Winger, we do have a fleet card. Actually, Chief Ross could probably speak to which stations they fill up. I never use the fleet card.
Through the Mayor, Councilor Winger, we're actually using Tesoro. Our cards work at Speedway, but I think we get a discount if we use the Tesoro down at Crowley. So So that's the primary source. Our cards are not Chevron.
Thank you.
I see quite a few police cars filling up at Chevron. That's why I'm questioning, because Chevron's fuel prices have been on average sometimes 3 cents and 5 cents ahead of Crawley or even Speedway or even Holiday. And I've seen them, they're filling up. So that's why I was questioning if that's the only place we have a fleet card or if there would be a benefit to getting fuel strictly at Crawley where we would get a discount versus Chevron.
Through the mayor, Councilor Winger, I would anticipate maybe you're seeing Alaska State Troopers because our cards don't work at Chevron. They're not, they're Tesoro fleet cards. So we don't have any other method for our officers to pay at Chevron.
All right, maybe it's a coincidence that it is Kenai cars I see there. Maybe it's just a coincidence that they're stopping there. Thank you.
I would ask for unanimous.
James, please. Unanimous? Okay. Councilor Sonard.
I have a question. I have a question for Chief Ross, and just for my own curiosity's sake, do the police pay full retail price, or when you use your fleet card and it goes through, do you get from the state, do you get exempted from a lot of the state taxes and different things like that?
Through the mayor, Councilor Sonard. So I actually don't know all the details of that. The finance department, finance director Eubank works that out for the city, and we all just get fleet cards from the finance department. So he directed us to use specific station to get a discount, but I'm not sure how the tax structure and all that works. If he were here, he could probably answer that.
It keeps going off. I would just hope, I'm glad to hear that there is some kind of discount in place for our forces, so that's good. Thank you.
Unanimous was requested. Are there any objections? Seeing none, Resolution 2022 is adopted. We are now on item G11. Item G11 is a action approval item. It's a special use permit to State of Alaska Department of Natural Resources, Division of Forestry for aircraft loading and parking, sponsored by the administration. Pleasure of council.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move to approve the special use permit to State Forestry, DNR Forestry for some ramp space.
Thank you, Councilor Nexted. Is there a second?
I would second that.
Thank you, Councilor Baisden. Any public comments, either in Zoom land or in the building? Thank you. Seeing no one else, we will bring this back to council. Watching for red lights. We're done.
I'll request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent. Any objections? Okay. No objections. Action approval item G11 is adopted. I would like to take just a 5-minute break here, please. Thank you. Thank you. We're back on the record. We're now on item G11. I'm sorry, G12. This is a discussion action item. This is to schedule meetings for individual council employees, personal evaluations to be conducted between April 20th and 26th. This is a discussion action item. I see Mayor Gabriel's name is attached to it. And at this point, I would ask Mayor Gabriel, please speak up if he cares to.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Glendenning. So annually, we perform performance evaluations on our three employees, our city manager, city attorney, and city clerk.
Brian, could you stand by? We're trying to jack the volume up again, please. We can hardly hear you. Stand by, please.
Okay.
Go ahead and try that, Mayor Gabriel.
Let me swap speakers. Is that better from my end?
That's better, thank you.
If you could start over, please. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor Glendenning. So annually, we conduct performance evaluations for our three city council employees, which is the city manager, city attorney, and city clerk. And we try to do that just ahead of the budget process, or as that budget's being fleshed out. So it's something that we include if there are merit increases or changes to the contract. What I'd like to do is schedule a time around the end of April or beginning of May. We're running a little bit late this year. I think we're fine still, but it usually is a 2-night or 2-evening affair. We usually do the city clerk and the city attorney in one evening and the city manager in another evening. And part of this process was fleshed out with our previous human resource director, Stormy Brown, and that was where we, send out a form to all the city council members to rate and comment on our city employees that would get sent back to the mayor. Myself and I would work with our new human resources director, Christine Cunningham, and put together a summary. It's a consolidation of everybody's scores and comments into a draft, but close to finalized, but a fleshed out draft that would get then we'd go over as a group, comment further, make additional comments, consensus, things like that, and that's when we pull the employees in and have the actual interaction with the employees at that time. So that's kind of where we're at with it. I know there was the template was sent out to council members. We have got some back. I don't know if we've gotten all of them back. I'd check with Ms. Cunningham, but at any rate, we're getting to the point where we need to schedule at least 2 nights to accomplish this. So that's a summary of what we'd like to do. Thank you.
Mayor Gabriel, so we are looking between April 20th and 26th. I'll just open it up here for suggestions, and if the clerk would help me keep track of numbers, we can come to something, and I'll give you last bite of the apple on this discussion. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Glendenning.
Yes, please.
I just had a question that maybe Mayor Gabriel would be able to answer. Are we going to be getting letters from the employees? Last year at evaluation time, we got a letter from the employees that stated what their accomplishments were and what their goals for the next year would be and any of their requests. I have not seen one. Are we expecting to get one? Thank you.
Yes, generally the employees, they're free to submit a, can you hear me?
You're faint
Can you hear
again.
me?
Just stand by. We're going to work with the controls.
Give that one a try, Vice Mayor. I'm
Are we
sorry,
okay?
Mayor Gabriel.
How's that?
That's better.
Is that good? I'm not sure what's going on here, but yes, to answer Councilmember Winger's question, yeah, generally the employees will submit a summary of some of the accomplishments they've had over the previous years, goals that they've set for themselves and achieved, and things of that sort. So, yeah, I would presume that we would get that from each of our employees. And I know with Ms. Sainer, she just started fairly recently, so this would be could be classified as an interim evaluation and not necessarily an annual evaluation.
Thank you. Just to follow up, I've turned my evaluations in and I haven't received letters. Do we not expect to receive letters, or are there not letters coming? Because if there's letter coming, then I don't know if I've reflected in my evaluations what maybe would be presented.
I have not gotten any correspondence from our employees. That was something that they would send out. That in the past, that's been sent out at a time prior to the after the time's been scheduled for their evaluations. There's nothing that would prevent them from sending those out earlier, though.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Any other questions? Mayor Gabriel, City Manager Ostrander is going to speak.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendenning, Mayor Gabriel. Just in response to Councilmember Winger's comment, I think she brings up a good point, and I might suggest potentially even a process change going forward. I know when I do evaluations here, I ask for that letter from my employees prior to producing the evaluation for the employees. So I think that there's probably valuable information on that letter that council members could use during the evaluation process. It's never been a formal part of the process in the past. At least I know I have, and I think Mr. Bloom and Jamie, when she was the city clerk, provided those letters the night of the evaluation. If council would like them earlier, I'm sure we can work on them soon. It's not going to help in the case of council members who've already done their evaluation, but we can get those out earlier. At least I would commit to do that if council would like to see them sooner.
Councilor next.
Yeah, well, the evaluation was for a time period before, so, you know, I think the letters really aren't, I think that it's what you're looking for going forward. So it really doesn't enter into my evaluation of performance during the previous fiscal year, whenever it was. I did this quite some time ago. But at any rate, it was fine getting them the day of, because they're usually relatively brief and I can read them there, and that works okay. If there's things on there that that an employee thinks is kind of personal, top secret, or whatever, I can understand why, you know, we get them while we're in executive session, we read them, and then we turn them back. And I think that was a lot of the reason for doing that, especially if there's an ask involved. And I wouldn't want to see one of those letters slipping out by accident. So I kind of think it's okay to have those, and they are brief enough that we could get them the night of.
Thank you, Councilor Naxted. Anyone else? Councilor Sonard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendenning. I appreciate your perspective, Councilor Naxted. I understand where you're coming from. I'm going to give the opposite viewpoint here, and that is each year you have 2 new members on the council that come in, get sworn in about November, and then we have 2 months of that year, November and December, to participate and see what's going on with the city employees. And then we're asked to do an annual evaluation going back to last January, when we weren't part of that process during those 10 months. And it's a little, I find that challenging. Because if I was not a council member during those first 10 months and I wasn't here active and listening and participating, how can I give a fair evaluation to cover that time period that is asked for? So having said that, I think that the letters would be very helpful ahead of time, maybe for the new people. Because what I understood the letters to have contained was not only a vision for the upcoming year, but a list of accomplishments throughout the past year. And I would just say that would help me greatly to be able to see a list of accomplishments, maybe month by month in order of chronologically. It would just help. Just a thought.
If I may, that actually makes sense when I've gone through that. And, you know, if the content is things like what you were just describing, absolutely, you know. But sometimes there's a discussion on compensation or things like that. But I think that could probably be a separate thing that would be submitted. Sometimes they're together when we meet, you see. So, yeah, and that makes sense. And actually, in review, we have a brand-new clerk, and I sort of have the same thing, because I know that she's only been a clerk here for a short period of time, so it's kind of hard to evaluate somebody before. But I'm concurring.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Nackstedt.
I guess to jump to the point, the dates we've got, we do have a pretty long potential meeting at our next regular meeting, but it could be that we have time to do the both the clerk and the city attorney on the 20th after our meeting. That would be the first date. Since we're already here, we might be here kind of late, but it's kind of efficient.
Thank you, Councilor Nackstedt. Any discussion from the council? Mayor Gabriel?
Yeah, I'm just pulling up my calendar here. What were the dates that were on that? I can't recall. 20th to the 26th, which they could, like I said, these can be moved a little bit forward. I mean, my schedule's been a little bit disrupted here in the last couple weeks, and maybe even going forward. So, I mean, bleeding over into the following. I know we've got a commitment. I've got a commitment for the end, tentative commitment, let's say right now, from the 21st and 22nd going into that weekend. So I guess from my perspective, if we're going to have the employees go ahead and submit their letters or correspondence to council members, then that might be worth it to maybe look at more of the 25th to the 29th timeline.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Any comments from council, please? Councilor Winger?
Thank you.
Then Councilor Sonard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendenning. I would not want to do it after council because I would on the 20th, because I would expect that would be at least a 2 to a 3 hour process for 2 employees. We have quite an agenda, and I know we will be hearing from the dog park as well. So I'm going to guess that meeting is going to be a 9-10 o'clock meeting, and then to do a couple hour worth of would be a little rough. And I am as well unavailable due to our wrestling commitments the 21st through the 24th. I would have more freedom that week of the 25th to the 29th, but I would not have any availability the first week of May.
Thank you, Councilor Winger. Councilor Sonard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Could the clerk refresh my memory on what the dates of the waterfront revitalization meetings are? Because I was thinking they were the last week in April, maybe the first week in May.
I will have to look. Hold on just a second.
I've got that information. It's May 2nd and May 3rd.
Councilor
I think we've had 2 council members say that any time the last week of April works for them. It works for me too. So if there's others that concur, we just need to pick 2 nights that week.
Thank you. Yes, I was looking at the calendar myself, and that time frame fits for me. So, and I believe Mayor Gabriel suggested that time frame. So let's call out a number. What's a good day?
Monday and Tuesday, 25th, 26th.
Of April? Any comments, any objections? Let's take it.
No objection. I would request a 5 p.m. start time.
5 p.m. start time. Any comments, questions?
Just want to make sure that works okay for the employees, that they don't have something.
They don't have to be there.
Well,
Yeah,
you know,
we'll just mail them a
I mean,
letter.
if it's an important kid thing or something like that,
Yeah,
you know
no,
what I mean,
that's,
or
then
family
that's,
or
yeah, that goes,
anniversary.
that goes without saying.
Yeah.
You know, they have a red light just like you do.
Well,
Okay, go ahead.
That's fine with me. Those dates are good.
Those dates are good, and so we will pencil in for the 25th and 26th of April for employee reviews, starting at 5. 5 works? Okay. And thank you. I just
Vice Mayor
have,
Glendenning.
please, yeah, go ahead.
I would ask that the clerk reach out to council members.
Petty?
Sorry,
You broke up, Mayor.
I would ask that the clerk please reach out to the council member Denise Petty and give her a heads up, please.
Good comment. Our clerk will make it so. Mayor, excuse me, I'm promoting you here. You can take my job.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendenning. Does council have a preference on whether it's city manager first and the city attorney and clerk second, or the other way around?
In the past, we've warmed up on the clerk and the attorney.
yeah. You're last.
Okay, having said all of that, I have just one comment. I like the idea that we're going to receive some communication from our employees. That will help me with my struggles in the evaluation, because undoubtedly something will be represented or proclaimed that I hadn't thought of, and as we do in our meetings, without getting too much into the weeds, Mayor Gabriel, we show up with evaluations that are filled out in pencil or lightly in ink, and we collaborate and have a firm understanding when we're done. And having said that, thank you for your leadership on all of this, and we have set our time and we've set our date, subject to any objection from Councilor Petty. Thank you. Excuse me. I have an extra button here, and this one shuts everybody off, and it shuts me off too. So you didn't tell me about that, Paul. We are now to committee and commission reports, and I would ask Councilor Member Nackstead, the Council on Aging.
No report on Council on Aging. Next meeting is April 14th. That's next Thursday at 3.
Thank you. The Airport Commission would be Councilmember Baston.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The next meeting for the Airport Commission is April 14th at 6 o'clock.
All right. Councilman Petty is not here for the Harbor Commission. Did I note that there was a cancellation of a commission meeting also? Was that the 11th?
That is correct.
Okay, if we could note that. Planning and Zoning Commission, I have that. Oh, Parks and Rec. Oh, yes. My Vice Mayor Petty's not here. Is there anyone going to take her spot? Okay. Parks and Rec Committee?
Oh, that's me.
Okay.
Parks and Recs Committee will be meeting tomorrow night here in Chambers at 6 o'clock.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll go to Planning and Zoning. Planning and Zoning Commission met on the 23rd, and we had a consideration of plat, preliminary subdivision plat of Tyone subdivision 2021 replat submitted by Edge Surveys of Kasilof on behalf of the Kenaitze tribe. This passed unanimously. There was on page 20 of our packet, there was a turnaround that was added to Alaska Avenue, and that is the only change in the design. There was a resolution, PZ 2022-07, that's a preliminary plat of Jane subdivision 2022 replat submitted by McLean's Consulting on behalf of BGMC LLC in Kenai. And this passed unanimously. There's a discussion on the vacation of a right-of-way, and that will be accomplished administratively. We had a action approval item for Wind Heaven Estates Phase 4 time extension. It was a borough requirement. That extension was granted. Evidently, there's some civil engineering details have to be worked out with the city on this, and so that extension was granted. Those were the items. The next meeting is April the 13th, and we have beautification.
Their April meeting for the
Say again,
12th.
please. Say again.
The April meeting, which I believe was the 12th, has been canceled.
Thank you.
So the next time they will meet will be May 10th, here at 6 p.m.
Okay. Thank you. Mayor Gabriel, a mini grant?
No report.
Okay. Now we go to report of the mayor. Brian, you're up.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Vice Mayor Glendening, for stepping up and running the meeting this evening. I want to thank everybody for thoughts and prayers. Struggle with some things that are going on with my mother, and I'm sure she would appreciate those also. I have a few items here. On March 22nd and 23rd, City Manager Ostrander and I went to Juneau, and the purpose of the trip, we were pretty singularly focused on the $6.5 million that the governor included in the general obligations bond package. And there's several dynamics to that. One is, speaking with, obviously advocating for our funding. And that also was a request to see if we could increase that funding, $2.75 million to around $9.2 million. The purpose for that was looking at inflation and commodity costs. We're going to try to get out ahead of that, and if possible, get that included or added to that amount. That being said, we were able to meet with our local delegation down there, in addition to quite a few other members of the legislature. The governor's office was able to add a meeting for us with Mr. Ruggiero. We got to spend about 45 minutes of his time. The governor was actually out of Juneau, so we weren't able to meet with him. And then also we're able to meet with Majority Leader Tuck. I had a pretty good conversation with him. So that all being said, we obviously passed a resolution to support the GO bond package. We wanted to try to get an idea of the temperature of where that was in the legislature, because the process is that would have to be passed out of the legislature and then go to the ballot for a vote of the people. So another component to this was to request that if for some reason the bond package didn't get approved through the legislature, that this funding request gets moved over to the capital budget side of the legislature. So we have, and surprisingly, and a testament to Mr. Ostrander and I'm sure with previous to him, there wasn't a lot of surprise of where people, weren't surprised about what we were advocating for. There's most of the folks were tuned into, the bluff erosion project, which was nice to have that sort of awareness before, we even met with them. So the idea was, hey, we got some federal funding here. We'd like to leverage. And if we can, it's not possible through the GO to move to the capital side. I think that was, the trip was well worth it. I left Juneau feeling very good about how things went down there. And, we'll have to see how things are going forward. And after the next Friday, I did attend the pie auction, which was, as usual, a great fun. It was nice to see other council members there. I think almost every from council was there except Councilmember Petty, but nice to see everybody there. And I think they did pretty good and enjoyed the banter. One other thing I wanted to bring up, I know we got it in our email, and like I said, I just had a few things here I was going to be brief about, but I just want to congratulate Deputy Clerk Megan Thibodeau, who was awarded a recipient of Alaska Association of Municipal Clerks reimbursable scholarship to attend the Northwest Clerks Institute next June. So good for her, and I hope she keeps that up. And if nobody has any questions for me, if you do, I'd be happy to answer those. If there's no other objection beyond that, I'd like to sign off, and I'll tune in and catch the rest of our administration reports, council comments, and public comments. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel, and thank you for your report. I will comment under Councilor's time to speak. Thank you, Brian. You can sign off. We will go now to administration reports with City Manager Ostrander, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendening. First of all, I wanted to talk about the next step in our Keener Waterfront Redevelopment Assessment and Feasibility Study. So the next dates that McKinley will be down here will be May 2nd and 3rd. And actually, the email that went out to folks, I think the reason why there's some confusion is there was a sentence left out of that email. If you go to the website, it explains it clearly, but we will actually send that back out again with the completed, with that sentence that's missing. So essentially what's going to happen is on May 2nd, so the first day that they're down here from 5:30 to 7 p.m., they're going to share the results of the public visioning session that we had back in February. And then on May 3rd, they're going to introduce concepts workshop process, which my understanding of the workshop is it's taking that visioning session and then it's starting to whittle down with community input what some of the preferred concepts of that area would be. That starts at 8 a.m. and it goes all day long, and that's the part that wasn't in the email. So beginning at 8 a.m., it's just basically an open house. Folks can come in at any time between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. that evening and provide their input on what they see from the visioning session, provide their preferred concepts. So they're going to take folks' input for virtually the entire day. And then that night from 7 to 8, they're going to provide an overview of the preferred concepts that have emerged through that workshop. So it's really all day, a 12-hour, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. that they'll be at the Visitor Center. Beyond that, want to let council know that we're continuing to work towards the National Flood Insurance Program. We did have some training. Both our planning director and his assistant, Ryan Foster and Katie Rector, were able to attend that training at the River Center on the 22nd of March. We don't have a total count of the number of parcels that will be impacted by the NFIP yet. We're working on that. We will get a total number, but the number of parcels that will be impacted seems to be quite low in the city of Kenai. The multi-purpose facility update, we met with members of the hockey community, and you may have seen the press release that went out last week, but we met with members of the hockey community, had a great discussion with them, and better understood what some of their concerns were as far as when the ice needed to be back in so that our local competitive hockey teams could remain competitive with the Anchorage teams. So we've committed right now, barring some sort of unforeseen circumstance, that we will have ice back in the facility by August 2nd. As Mayor Gabriel said, I went down to Juneau with him. There was one other thing that we did down there that was relevant to the Bluff project. We met with DOT Commissioner Ryan Anderson and Deputy Commissioner Rob Carpenter, and we were talking about the possibility of there being a quarry on state land that we could utilize for the rock for the project. And this, what it would allow us to do is if we can get rock from the state for free and then pay for the actual production of the rock, the amount that we get to use for a work in kind towards our match amount, our 35% match amount to the project would grow potentially by multiple times. So if we spent $3 million on production of rock, the value of that rock that's produced might be $7 or $9 million. Therefore, we get $9 million worth of work-in-kind credit rather than the $3 million that it costs the city to produce the rock. So we sent the rock specs to the state. They've got their geologists looking at it to see if there are possible locations. We're also working on a possible collaboration with the borough. We had a meeting with them earlier this week. The borough has several quarries, and there's a possibility that one of their quarries in particular may work very well for that same type of activity. So we're continuing to work on that, and we'll see where it goes. An update on spruce bark beetle mitigation. Chief Pryor is here to expand on this if needed, but he has taken the lead on the project there or the best way to utilize the $385,000 that we got from the congressionally directed spending when the feds passed their omnibus bill back in February. We are planning to collaborate with both the borough and forestry on that. There's no indication yet on when those funds will be made available. I did talk to Murkowski's office today, and they still are not certain when those will be made available. But Chief Pryor has made good progress on that, and we'll continue to work on that and keep council apprised as we work through that to let you know what the possible options will be. In good news, we finally had our kickoff meeting with DOT on the bridge access pathway. That was on March 30th. Their team has been assembled. They have a first site visit scheduled for early May, so it's good to see that project finally getting started. Huge shout out to our streets crew and Parks and Rec. Silas, you should be thankful for this as well as a member of one of our local schools. We spent a significant amount of time clearing the track and field at KCHS. We cleared the baseball field for the high school team so that they could get started. We cleared the softball field so that those teams could get started as well. And we also helped Nikiski clear their track and field out there as well. So again, the streets crew, Parks and Rec crew did a great job. I know that our new Parks and Rec director, Brad Walker, looked at the softball field in particular where all those drifts are coming off the airport, and he thought it was absolutely impossible to get the snow off of there, but they managed to do it. So real proud of the work that they did. Couple new hires. We do have a building official after 10 months or so. Yes, Don Hendrickson is the hire, and Scott Curtin is really excited to have that person on board. That was an internal promotion, so we actually have another position to fill, but I'm hopeful that that one will be filled quicker than the building official. And I think I did let council know, but I'll reiterate, my new assistant to the city manager came on Monday. Today was her third day, Randy Broyles, and she's going to be great for the city. We're excited to have her on. And then on the Bluff, just a small update, 65% drawings for those. So we've already got the 35% drawings for design. 65% design drawings are scheduled for completion on May 11th. And as I stated earlier, like with the quarries, we're continuing to pursue any and all opportunities to help the city meet our match requirements. So that's the end of my report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
James, please. Thank you, Vice Mayor. So, Paul, please make sure that the city crews get a big thank you, and I know they have for what they did at the fields. Because of what they did at the turf, the high school, we held the first soccer games in the state because of the way it was cleared. So this weekend was great.
Good job. Councilor Winger.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendenning. I too just want to say thank you for clearing those fields. Good job to everybody that got out and worked on that for a couple of days. It definitely was noticed within our community. I mean, I think it's great that they get the city. When I played soccer in high school, we had to shovel it. So we were shoveling it, and sometimes a dad with a plow might come take mercy on us and do it, but we had to hand shovel those. So they definitely get off a little easier these days getting the help from the city. So I just want to say thank you for that. I'm looking forward to hearing more about the Spruce Bark update, specifically if we're going to have a dump site opened up in time for the spring, and then how we would go about doing that. And our funding is if it would come out of this grant, or if it'd be something that we'd have to talk at budget time about. I'm looking forward to the Spruce Bark Beetle solution. Thank you.
Any other questions? I have one. This is, for our city manager. We have a basket of ARPA funds, and is our water wastewater eligible for some of this funding to help with those costs, with the idea of maybe holding down on any potential increases to our end users, our citizens, our utility users?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Glendenning. Those are eligible for water and sewer to hold down those costs. One of the things I will say, however, is that a lot of the infrastructure funds that were appropriated and the notice of funding opportunities that are going to be coming out over the next weeks, months, and even years, a lot of that is targeted towards improvements to those types of facilities. So it may be that we have a great opportunity for funding through those and can utilize those ARPA funds for different purposes. I also did talk to our Public Works Director, Scott Curtin, today about the possibility of pursuing an earmark similar to what we got with the Spruce Bark Beetle mitigation funding last year to specifically fund a large project at our wastewater treatment plant. Our wastewater treatment plant and its location, I think, justifies a federal appropriation to make sure that facility continues to operate at a high level and doesn't jeopardize the obviously very important environment that we are operating in.
Yeah, thank you, Manager Ostrander. Yeah, I know that we're watching the condition and the operating ability of our water wastewater plant, and we are apprised almost every meeting of progress and the needs, projected needs for the facility, and I believe we have this well in hand, and thank you for your update. Any other questions? Okay, I will give the city attorney's report. No report. We will go to city clerk Sainer, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Gabriel. I just wanted to expand a little bit. Very congratulations to Deputy Clerk Megan Thibodeau for receiving the scholarship. She will get to attend a week worth of professional development training geared specifically towards the clerk's profession. It's held at the University of Puget Sound, so she gets to live in a dorm for a week. I don't envy that part. We've been working and coordinating with the state of Alaska for the primary special election that's coming up. And City Hall will be a absentee voting station from May 27th through June 10th. And on Election Day, June 11th, absentee voters will be able to come here and vote. We did a little inventory and checked all the supplies and made sure that we had everything on hand that they will need. So, and I'm available for questions.
Councilor Basin.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So Shelley, for the election coming up June 11th specifically, since the state, that's going to be a mail-in ballot, where will people be able to come and drop their ballots off here? Will there be a collection here and at the borough? Is that what we're going to be looking at?
Yes. So here we won't have, the state has a box that they put outside at the borough. We won't have the box here, but we will have absentee voting officials that are employees of the state of Alaska right down here outside my office that can accept those.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, observations? Nobody in remote land? Okay, thank you. We will now go to council comments, and we'll start with me. Say again, please.
I'm sorry. You're right. Go ahead.
Just a little time off. There's there's two ways to argue with a woman, and neither one works. And don't tell me what I just did, because never mind.
Point of order. I think you were right. We need to go out for public comment one more time, don't we? Oh, you did? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought we need to go out to public comment, right?
Yeah. No public comment. Oh, say again. Okay, come ahead.
I'm April Orth, and I live in Kenai, Alaska. And an observation, we received a lot of voter mailers in our mailbox that didn't belong to us during the last season. So, and I've heard a lot of other people say the same thing. Is there a notice we can put out to the public in case they receive these errant mail-in voting in their mailboxes that don't belong to them, where we can drop them off safely so that they can be secured safely?
You would be able to bring those here to City Hall. We'll accept them.
So is there a way to, I know that we mentioned something about that on the radio the other day, but is there something that we can, else we could do to get that information out to the public?
Since it's a state of Alaska election and not a local election, it would be up to the state, and I can talk to the division director about advertising options for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Marion?
One more thing that I forgot to mention before, that is that Scott Curtin was good enough to come over and spend a little time with the Arts Center board at their last meeting last month, and talking about our same old bugaboos, the windows and the Potter side of the building that we, the Art Center and the Potters Guild, were going to split the cost on. Well, that's proven to be more expensive than the Potters can handle, so they're writing a grant for their part of that, and they postponed it a bit and so forth and so on. So we'll see what happens this summer. And then also to tell you that the Art Center is in the process of writing a grant through Rasmussen for approximately $15,000 for the floor in the main gallery and what we refer to as the gift gallery, which, if you don't know, is kind of the middle section of the building, the back being, of course, done last year. And we decided to do a grinding on that, not polishing, but grinding to a roughness, if you will, that will eliminate slipping issues. It's certainly 99% of them. And we have met with John Bomer, who does that, and looking at cost of that. And anyway, one of the board members is in the process of finishing that grant, will be sent off, I assume, within the next, well, it will be sent off within the next 2 weeks for sure. So, and the estimate is about 15 grand, as I said. Any questions about that? Nothing? Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? No one in remote land? Okay. We'll now go to council comments. And I'll lead off. I attended the pie auction and was so successful I had to get cholesterol medicine. But I'll just take one for the team, I guess. And I noticed tonight in comments and presentations that there was a common theme, and that was honoring our youth, but providing opportunities and challenges for them also. And I see that in all the phases and facets of our discussion. And I see that it's a common thread that we have had throughout the few years that I have been here, and I'm glad for it, and I like to see it continue, and we can all remind each other that these young ones are our future and are very, very important to us. And just one comment about about using the state quarries and the borough quarries, and I'm sure there'll be good opportunities for appropriate material. Being able to get the yield for the big boulders that go at the bottom, and I'm sure there's lots of smaller stuff that we can use, and thanks for doing that, Manager Ostrander. That'll save us some money on this project. So that covers me. Counselor Naxted. We'll just go down the row.
Thank you. And I too am really glad to be hearing about the quarry possibilities, even prior to the 65% level. I think that was something I was kind of pushing before even we, just where the material is going to be coming from. But other things have revealed themselves, and the state wasn't a possibility. And I think until you met with the governor, we did that one time, and he suggested that. And so it would be really cool if that comes through, and a whole lot cheaper too. So that's great. And I wanted to congratulate Megan Thibodeau for her scholarship. She's going to the university where my daughter is right now, as a matter of fact. So she can probably give her some notes on that place. And good job, Vice Mayor Glendening, on your meeting. And thank you very much.
Well, I tried to restrain myself. I tried not to show too much glee and abandonment, but it was kind of fun. Paul kept me straight. He's my better angel. James.
Nothing to comment on. Have a good night.
Oh, James, you're killing me. There's so much.
You can have my time.
Okay, I'm going to have to take James' time. Thank you for your time.
I yield.
So, first off, I just want to thank everybody that purchased donuts from my son, who came and gave a presentation a couple weeks ago for donuts to help pay to get to 6th grade camp at Kenai Middle School. I will be contacting you to see where you would like your donuts tomorrow. They come in, and we found out that there was over 800 dozen donuts placed in that order. So there will be Krispy Kreme donuts out the ears in this community. I know I've got 5 dozen going out to the Nikiski Senior Center. I've got a couple of dozen that were bought from somebody on Facebook from Louisiana that sent me a check to send 2 dozen donuts to our Kenai Senior Center. So, I mean, we had support from other states as far as Louisiana. Ultimately, my son was able to make camp, and he decided that he wanted to continue to sell donuts to help another kid get to camp. And so altogether, our amazing city clerk decided she didn't want donuts, but she sponsored a child to go to camp. So altogether, we were able to distribute enough and sell enough to send 4.5 kids to camp. And because they hit a higher threshold than what they had expected, instead of getting $6.50 for every dozen sold towards camp, they rounded it to $7. So because of the orders, they gave a little bit more towards the school and donations. So I just want to say thank you to everybody here that bought donuts and supported that. They go to camp May 9th through 11th up in Sutton. I'm a little jealous because they will be climbing the glacier and going fossil searching. And I, too, went to the Senior Center Meals on Wheels event. It's just nice to have normalcy. And I'm going to talk a little bit about normalcy. It was just nice to get back in there. Everybody was excited to be there. I think the most excited person to be there was definitely Vice Mayor Glendening, because he was so excited he had to buy up everything. So you definitely had to be at our table if you wanted any chumps of dessert. But it was a great event, and just thank you, Kathy, and everybody that worked so hard to put that on. It was just nice to get together and laugh and have a great time, so thank you for doing that. Going on, the library has had some great successful back-in-place programs. I've seen pictures online about a story hour where the kids were in little boxes that were decorated like cars, and there had to be 20-something kids in that program, and Mr. James just does a great job over there, so I just want to say it's great to see normalcy again, and now those are definitely some of the things that we're seeing. A couple of things that are upcoming here is KSRM Easter egg. So it's almost Easter. KSRM Easter egg usually gets found in the city of Kenai. So if you see people out tromping around late at night, digging and looking, they're not supposed to be on private property. But if you see people in fields kicking over at 10, 11 o'clock at night, just mind your own business, because they're not going to share their clues. So let's hope that egg's found in Kenai. St. Jude's Radiothon event will be going on this week, so if you're a big supporter of St. Jude's, definitely call in and be a pledge for hope. I'm wearing a hoodie tonight. This hoodie, I'm going to stand up for a second. This hoodie was generously sponsored by Hillcorp. If any of you know the Hillcorp programs, an employee can pick a nonprofit to give a donation and the company will match it. And we had a generous employee pick our Soldotna Whalers Wrestling Club. And with that donation, they bought hoodies for every single coach and kid on the team. So that was about roughly 180 that were purchased. And then not to just stop there, they actually customized them with our names on our sleeves. So everybody got a custom sweaters. I just want to say huge thank you to Hillcorp. They do so much in our community. They give to our senior center, they give to our libraries, they give to all of our youth programs, they give, I don't know if they give to the arts, they give to the arts. So, I mean, just Hillcorp is huge in what they bring into our community, and I just want to bring recognition to that and thank them for what they do. And wrapping up, sorry, James is tapping his fingers. He's telling me to hurry up. His time's done. Couple of fun events going on. Back to normalcy is the Kenai Elks, which is right around the corner from here. We'll start hosting cornhole tournaments the second and fourth Mondays starting in May. So if you're into cornhole, there's quite a few places that are really getting into leagues, and cornhole is definitely a fun activity to get out and do. So I'd invite you over to play some cornhole. And this weekend is Kenai High School's prom, and I just want to wish all the high school, I'm not going to get into it, I just want to wish you a happy, have fun, safe time, and enjoy yourself.
Really stealing my thunder, huh?
Well, I could talk about soccer. I'll talk about that. Good luck to their jamboree this weekend that they're going to have at the high school. And on to so nice.
You ain't going to leave me nothing to talk about.
There's got to be a plethora.
Surely you have something to
There is, but, you know, I always
Are
like
you
to
finished?
talk.
Thank you. I would like to thank Kathy for putting together such a wonderful evening at the gala. My sister is a recipient of the lunch program there with the senior center, and so our household we appreciate everything that you do and your staff members do. And it was fun to be a part of the evening, so much so that, decades ago I had given up ever having any functions here in Kenai to dress up for. And when I took my key lime pie and dropped it off that afternoon, I'm in my jeans and my sweatshirt, my ponytail, and I take my pie in, and I was just thinking, okay, I'll put on a fresh t-shirt tonight, And I walk in, and she's got the whole place, tablecloths and decorations, and I really quickly picked up on, oh, this really is a gala. So it was fun. I got to go home and tell my husband, guess what, we get to get dressed up. So anyway, Kathy, thank you. It was a wonderful evening, and thank you to everybody who baked. Thank you to everybody who bought. Vice Mayor Glendening, thank you for all your purchases that night, and I'm sorry about your cholesterol levels, but thank goodness we have good doctors around here. And I just want to say thank you. It was a wonderful evening. And Silas, I will not steal your mass band thunder, although I'd like to.
All right. First things first, I want to say I'm glad to be back. Having both strep and COVID at the same time, not fun. I would not recommend it to anybody here. So I'm really glad that I can be back here with everybody and talk with all of you guys, kind of plan out the future of our great city. Now on to school news, as you so daringly said. We are, in fact, having prom this Saturday. It will be at Kenai. The promenade is starting at 6:30. I myself don't know what promenade is, so.
They walk out, they get introduced, and they walk out, and they twirl, and then they walk off stage.
On the stage.
All right, then. It will be lasting until 12, but there will be a prom after party that I know of. So hopefully, if enough of my friends go to that, I'll be able to go too. In sports, I would like to thank you guys for cleaning off both the football field, baseball fields. It was, even though I'm not going to be playing baseball this year, it was fantastic to see the soccer team, track and field, baseball, all using their own respective fields to get out there and practice. And I think that we have a really good future ahead of us for our sports teams. In terms of what Ms. Sonart said about Mass Band and Honor Band, the 4th and the 5th, Monday and Tuesday. Monday was Honor Band, where the Kenai Honor Band, Soldotna, Nikiski, and Homer bands all went to Homer High School and practiced for a heck of a long time on all of their music. They did not perform a concert. That was the next day. The next day, Tuesday, yesterday, all bands, so even myself, the Mass bands, all went to Homer High School and we practiced our own music. And we had our own one big concert of both Honor Band and Mass Band. For the Mass Band, one of our pieces was called Kyiv 2022. I'm sure all of you know what's going on in Ukraine and Russia right now. But it was a sequel to what we were originally supposed to play, which was Moscow 1941. And our director? Yeah, our director told us that we, as a whole Mass Band, had the honor of playing that song, the first band to ever play that song in the state. So honestly, I'm really proud that we can play it because it was it's only 3 weeks old. He composed it. I think there are videos of the Ukrainian band playing it in a bomb shelter. And I think that it fills me with such joy that even while such bad things are happening, people can still find a love of music. So that is all I have to say right now.
Thank you. Councilor Sonart, did you?
I would just like to point out, just building on what Councilmember Winger said about getting back to normalcy, I believe, if I'm counting back right, this Mass Band and Honor Band Festival's first time in 3 years. In 3 years, because we've not had Mass Band or Honor Band since 2019. Because I know we were working our butts off on that music in 2020 and never got to do it. So I'm glad to see that come back around, and it's been a long 3 years for that.
Well, thank you, and thank everybody for a fun meeting. I giggled a little bit. I don't know. I may even got a smile out of Paul. And having passed through our regular order of business and seeing nothing else to be accomplished, there's no executive sessions, etc. Don't fumble the hammer, Jimmy. We're done.